Zoochosis is mostly a body horror first-person game that's set in a zoo where you gotta deal with these horribly mutated animals. From giraffes to gorillas, to wallabies and penguins, you got everything. But their mutated forms take several inspirations from well-known horror icons, like Lovecraft's Cthulhu and John Carpenter's The Thing, to name a few. So, what's the secret behind these mutated animals, who look like they had a spa day at one of Resident Evil's umbrella facilities? Well, it all started with an 8,000-year-old monstrosity called Mother, who gives birth to weird-looking parasites. And in this video, that's what we're gonna explore. The Zoochosis parasites who change innocent animals into monsters, who can only be calmed by feeding on human flesh. Yep, human flesh. So without further ado, let's begin. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Number 1. The Zoochosis parasite, origins and evolution. The parasites in Zoochosis are, well, parasites, but they don't really look the way one would expect a parasite to look. I mean, they have like a face that kind of looks humanoid and still somewhat alien, and on top of that, they have the body of a centipede. So, know what I mean when I say they look weird. As a player, you first spot them while cutting meat for the animals at the zoo. One of them just reveals itself out of nowhere because it had been hiding in the meat, camouflaged. But then the little guy hisses at you before crawling away, and that's when you realize you're in for some serious stuff. I'll get to their origin in detail in a little while, but for now, you should know that they're all produced by this larger organism called the Mother, and the zoo people collect the parasites to infect the zoo animals as part of some experiment. Now, the protagonist of the story, Paul, is intentionally infected with one of the parasites through Oliver, who seems to be the owner of the zoo and the guy spearheading all those cruel experiments on the animals. As soon as one gets infected, one starts to show signs of illness. Now, the interesting thing is that the parasite mimics the disease and symptoms that various animals usually experience. For instance, if you're human, you can expect some severe vomiting, blisters, engorged blood vessels, etc. If you're an elephant or a gorilla, you can expect the diseases that an elephant or gorilla would experience. It's a pretty nifty trick, which not only fools the host, but also the host's immune system. I mean, if you have an infection of some sort, your body will raise your temperature by a few degrees, causing a fever, which basically serves as an inhospitable environment for most disease-causing microbes. Needless to say, the parasite is pretty much one of the biggest threats to all living creatures, including humans. At the zoo, a bunch of wild animals have been recently infected. These include giraffes, zebras, hippopotamuses, penguins, moose, elephants, and wallabies. So, how do you fight these parasites and those who get infected and mutated? So, in the game, after you've done all the routine stuff like feeding the animals, testing them, and producing darts for any illnesses they might have, you go to one of the animal enclosures where the animal roars at you. This is your cue that the animal has become mutated, but the animal does not attack you because you've also been injected with the parasite by Oliver. You see, if you're infected, the mutated animals see you as one of their own and do not try to eat you, but they might attack you if they're enraged. Anyway, after roaring at you, the creature goes back inside the enclosure. The lights go all dim, and it feels like you're about to enter a boss fight mode. After this, you can do two things. One, you can either use 3 lethal injection darts to neutralize the animal, or cure the animal of its mutation. To cure the animal, you need the animal's blood, along with the knowledge of the disease that the parasite is trying to mimic. Since the animal already mutated into its ugly form, it will try and kill and eat the other animals in its enclosure. Good thing is, tranquilizer darts do well to pacify the mutant for a while, which gives you a window long enough to make the cure and come back, while ensuring that the other animals are safe. Again, a mutated animal needs 3 hits with the cure to get fully cured, which is told to the player through 3 green hearts that appear on the screen. Oh, and if you kill the mutated animal using the lethal injection darts, the animal will die, but the parasite will continue to live inside the animal's carcass. Number 2. The mother of all parasites. The Mother Parasite explored. In 1967, a team of scientists thought, why not set up a camp around Greenland? So they established 3 bases there. Though nobody's quite sure what they were up to, maybe they fancied a chilly retreat, or were hunting for thawing secrets. Lo and behold, they stumbled upon something peculiar frozen inside an ice core. Naturally, they decided to bring it back for a closer look. This all feels pretty much how things unfolded in John Carpenter's The Thing, more specifically its prequel, in which the Norwegians discovered discover a mutated human and bring it back to study. Next thing we know, everyone's dead. Coming back to our story, as this mysterious object began to thaw, they witnessed something they could not possibly believe. Emerging from the ice was a gigantic creature resembling Medusa, but instead of snakes, this one had tentacles. Countless tentacles sprouted from the creature's head. Its facial features were pretty basic or minimalist. You know, it just had a sideways mouth filled with human-like teeth. Nothing very pretty. Of course, this creature was the mother, aka the mother of all parasites in Zoochosis. But wait, there's more. This monstrosity could grow numerous arm-like appendages from its back, each hand equipped with 8 fingers. It moved around by slithering like a snake, but also had 10 spider-like legs for good measure. As if its nature couldn't make up its mind, it combined a Venus flytrap's mouth, a spider's legs, and a snake's slither. The scientist even joked, nervously I'm sure, that perhaps only an ancient god could explain such a creature. The most astonishing ability of this being, whom they aptly named Mother, was her knack for sending out parasites that could infect hosts, mutating them with some of her own features. Mother and her parasites shared a hive mind. If she kicked the bucket, so did all her little minions, even those already living their best life inside a host, hence the maternal nickname, due to her offspring's spreading talents. The scientists speculated that her origins might date back over 8,000 years, but given her peculiar abilities, she could be much older. She could alter her own body at will, so she could switch between solid and liquid states without breaking a sweat, and so could the parasite she produced, which is why Oliver was able to inject our protagonist with an injection. Oh, and she could regenerate, just to keep things interesting. There's a few floating theories about her origin. While some believe that there's something divine or supernatural about her, others are of the opinion that she hails from another planet. Which side would you swing? Number 3. From cute to carnage, how the parasite warps innocent creatures. Scientists have discovered ways to understand how this troublesome parasite evolves, especially by focusing on the females. So far, they've only managed to figure out the females' evolutionary tricks. In one scenario, whimsically named Parasitus sapiens mutation, aka PSMA, a female parasite becomes the apple of several male parasites' eyes. Curiously, the males don't fight amongst themselves. This approach is noted for its knack for adapting to the environment. In another case, called IVMB, or Infestator Venatus Monstrum, the female parasite takes the initiative to seek out male parasites and starts gaining insights into environmental factors. The males, on the other hand, are pretty laid back and don't pay much attention to the females. Then there's the MIMY stage, or the Mutans Infectiosis Modifier, where things get downright rowdy. Male parasites turn into fierce competitors and battle each other vigorously over a female until only one victor remains. Number 4. The Monstrous Menagerie. Every infected creature explained. Giraffes. In the game, giraffes aren't just tall, gentle giants you see at the zoo. They're full of some really nasty surprises, or maybe shocks. Yeah, that's a better term. Shocks. Initially, one friendly giraffe approaches the protagonist in the trailer and even gives their hand a lick. It may seem adorable, but you might want to hold on to your safari hats because things get crazy fast. Moments later, the protagonist notices that one giraffe has a high temperature and is vomiting. Never a good sign in any setting, maybe except for when you're expecting. Then this giraffe undergoes a not-so-charming transformation into an infected monster. The animal develops spider-like legs bursting out, tearing through its own legs and abdomen. Its neck and mouth split open, eyes pop out, teeth sharpened like a shark's, and the tongue just falls out. The creature escapes the facility, and if that wasn't enough to ruin your day, the protagonist gets attacked when the radio emitter goes haywire. Oh, and these guys can also climb walls. Among the 3 giraffes named Bo, Po, and Cleo, one will eventually mutate into that monstrous form and start attacking the other giraffes. It might even take a swipe at you. Thankfully, because of your connection to the mother parasite, it won't kill you. It thinks you're one of its own. Small victories. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to craft lethal darts. But I've covered this stuff already, so I won't go through them again. Zebras. In the game's first trailer, a seemingly ordinary zebra encounter becomes anything but. It all starts with our protagonist finding a dead zebra. Never a good omen. But before you can say zebra crossing, an infected zebra bolts across the screen. This one has a sprouted mouth right where you'd least expect it. Yes, between its hindquarters. Tentacles are writhing out of its back through torn skin, making it look like it took a dip in a radioactive squid tank. As if that weren't enough to make you rethink your career choices, fungal spores are blooming around its neck like the world's worst jewelry. The zebra's head hangs lifelessly, one eye popped out, and its guts, stomach, and intestines are unpleasantly on display. To top off this nightmare fuel, the creature moves backwards because its head is shoved up its ass, literally. Caring for zebras starts off as a straightforward zookeeper task. Feed them and tend to their medical needs. You get alerts when an animal is feeling under the weather or showing signs of infection, but when the mutant zebra arrives, your mission is to neutralize this monstrosity by hitting it with lethal darts. Once you've managed to bring it down, which by the way is easier said than done, you collect the parasite it leaves behind and dispose of it in the drainage. Like the infected giraffe, it can climb and run, but it also has a thing for charging at you when you least expect it. It might lull you into a false sense of security by walking around and crouching like an elephant, only to suddenly leap and attack. It's notoriously quick to escape, and the cramped environment doesn't do you any favors when trying to take aim. Failing to eliminate it promptly leads to a cascade of problems. Paul gets sicker, and worse yet, other zebras might become infected. The last thing you need is a herd of these nightmares running amok. Wallabies. Wallabies are kangaroo-like marsupials, but much smaller in size than a kangaroo. The player attempts to scan one with a radio sensor, but as soon as the gadget is revealed, the wallaby hops away. The chase leads to the wallaby's resting spot, but the little animal vanishes into thin air. The player takes out the radio emitter, which starts going haywire. As soon as the player turns around, they find that the once adorable wallaby is now a corrupted, infected monstrosity, crouching in the top corner of the wall. Its mouth has split backward, and one can see rows of razor-sharp teeth that would make a dentist faint. Its stomach has torn open to form a second mouth, because one just isn't enough, with even more teeth. The eyes are wide, white, and utterly soulless, while an unnaturally long tongue dangles out, blood staining its skin. In gameplay, wallabies require the usual feeding and medical checkups. Neglect them and one of the 4 wallabies will transform into this horrifying mutant. After dealing with the creature, by hitting it with 3 well-placed shots, you must collect the parasite it leaves behind and dispose of it in the centipede drain. What makes this mutant wallaby particularly troublesome is its invisibility factor. It can vanish for short periods, making it a stealthy predator that attacks both the player and unsuspecting wallabies. To defeat this elusive mutant animal, you have 2 strategies. First, wait patiently until it decides to reveal itself, and then act quickly to take it down. Second, you can use other wallabies as bait. The latter is a bit of a gamble. If you're too slow or lose track of the creature, you might fail your mission and have more infected wallabies on your hands. Penguin. The penguin enclosure is one of the unique ones because of its icy environment. It's strange that the zoo guys invest a lot of money on giving the animals their desired environment and habitat, while the zoo does not really make any money as such. So the penguins initially feel like regular guys, flipping, flopping around. But when one of them mutates, it's pretty much game over if you don't deal with it with swiftness. You see, the mutated emperor penguin grows in size, gains the ability to fly, and becomes super deadly. It zips around the icy enclosure, making it difficult to neutralize or cure. If and when it lands from its flight, it will attack you or its brethren in the enclosure. In the mutated form, the penguin's flippers get transformed into bat-like wings, which gives the animal a look similar to a pterodactyl. Instead of the regular 2, the penguin's head splits open into 4 parts, which gives it a strange flower-like mouth appearance. It's riddled with innumerable razor-sharp teeth. Penguins usually have a strong jaw to hold slippery prey like squids and smaller fish, so this new and improved version's jaws become deadlier. It's kind of like how the dog thing opened its mouth in Carpenter's original movie. Gorilla. In the game, the gorilla enclosure is like a jungle gym on steroids. Artificial rocks, caves, swings, and ropes galore, perfect for our primate friends to swing and climb to their heart's content. After mealtime, you spend time collecting and analyzing their stool, checking their blood, measuring sound waves, and taking their temperature. The 4 gorillas, aka Dexter, Piper, Thor, and Chief, seem friendly for their nature, until one of these gorillas transforms into a parasite-infected monster. When this happens, things get a bit hairy, even by gorilla standards. The gorilla's back skin starts peeling off like a bad sunburn, and multiple spider-like eyes sprout on its face. So basically, it looks just like it had a spa day at an Umbrella facility from the Resident Evil games. The good news is that this monster moves at a leisurely pace, and occasionally climbs the rocks, making it one of the easier nightmares to handle. To put an end to its rampage, you'll need to hit it with 3 lethal injection darts. Once you've done that, brace yourself. The parasite exits the gorilla in a rather dramatic fashion through the digestive tract, and out the mouth. It's not pretty, but hey, someone has to save the day. Hippos. In the game trailer, we start with a hippopotamus doing typical hippo things, eating and lazily hanging out. But then the infected hippo makes everything go haywire because the gentle river giant wants to eat its friends and kill you. Its mouth gets ripped open with teeth jutting out, which is the answer to how a vampire hippo would look. Yep, I know that no one asked the question. You can see its bones, especially the clavicle and spine, because its skin disappears around those parts. Its eyes glow a sinister red, and red spores of infection are sprouting all over its back like a grotesque garden. The legs become all twisted and distorted, which makes its movements anything but natural. This mutated beast looks like it escaped from a Half-Life game, bringing those video game nightmares to life in our mad scientist zoo. Furthermore, these mutations give the parasitized hippo the ability to burrow underground and lunge out for surprise attacks, which is kinda scary because they can pop out of nowhere and attack you. I mean, can you imagine an animal as big as a hippo burrowing under the ground? Taking down the hippos is relatively easy because of their size. You know, you have a bigger target to shoot at. Elephant. In the game Zoochosis, elephants are both the largest creatures and the biggest pains in the neck. Say hello to Kavi, Raja, and Babar, normally gentle giants who munch away on 6.5 kilograms of herbs and 4.5 kilograms of veggies. But when the mutation kicks in, these peaceful pachyderms transform into something that looks straight out of one of those Lovecraftian cosmic horror stories. Once infected, these elephants turn into massive juggernauts, with armor plating covering their backs and sides. This makes them tough cookies to crack, unless you can trick them into charging headfirst into a wall, which stuns them just long enough for you to catch your breath. The most visceral and jaw-dropping change is what happens to their trunks. Instead of the usual single trunk, they sprout a writhing mass of tentacles, which gives them an uncanny resemblance to Cthulhu, the infamous eldritch deity. As if that wasn't enough, these monstrous elephants become incredibly powerful. They can easily consume their fellow elephants and lift them high with those tentacled appendages. Dealing with them feels less like a game and more like battling an elder god. Moose. In the moose exhibit, things take a turn for the bizarre when an infected moose appears as a flayed-headed horror with a nasty surprise. Its body splits down the middle, revealing a row of teeth that make its back look like a giant gaping mouth. The flayed skull seems to be a signature move of the parasite's mutations, because why stop at just one mouth? But the weirdness doesn't end there. The mutated moose has a peculiar trick, thanks to its antlers. These twisted antlers emit energy that messes with your camera feed, which makes it nearly impossible to focus and aim your weapon at this rampaging beast. The static interference leaves you vulnerable to its charge attacks. The moose enclosure is larger than most and offers a vibrant woodland vibe, complete with stones and greenery, a perfect retreat for our antlered friends. Surprisingly, despite their size, these moose require only 2 kg of herbal food and 1 kg of vegetables, which is less than you'd expect for such large animals. The 3 moose are called Hank, Aspen, and Finn. These moose are speedy creatures. When they're agitated or scared, good luck trying to record their sound waves. You'll need to tranquilize them to help them relax, so you can collect blood samples and sound recordings. Marvelous verdict. Needless to say, Zoochosis is a game set in a spooky zoo where the animals aren't for show and can turn into terrifying monsters. The real stars are the mutated creatures, each designed with wonderfully grotesque details that make them both awesome and unsettling. The game might not have a deep story with mysteries to uncover, but the eerie atmosphere and the suspense of not knowing when an animal might mutate keep the players engaged. The horror element comes mainly from these transformations. While jump scares are minimal and sometimes ineffective, the creepy design of the animals maintains a constant feeling of unease. The body horror aspect serves as a ticking clock and adds tension as you care for the animals that could become monstrous at any moment. Gameplay is mostly exciting when these mutated animals are on the loose, causing chaos in the zoo. The core loop involves diagnosing and curing these creatures, which is both fun and rewarding to master. Even after several playthroughs, the game stays fresh due to randomized diagnosis phases and changing enclosures. There's always something new to discover, whether it's a locker to open, a note to read, or another monster to cure. The combination of caring for normal animals and dealing with their horrifying mutated forms creates a thrilling and suspenseful experience. The one singular issue that I had with Zoochosis was the final boss monster, aka Mother, could not be fought. I mean, that kinda sucks, wouldn't you agree? And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!